All right, welcome back. We got our weekly stock market update coming to you a day early. I'll be out of town tomorrow, so we're going to go ahead and give you the update for this week. We got a lot of AI and semiconductor news this week. So Monday, it was announced that AMD and OpenAI are going into a chip deal, and this is for AMD to supply OpenAI 6 gigawatts of their GPU chip, and this will start rolling out in 2026. Now, with this partnership, OpenAI is also receiving warrants to acquire a 10% stake in AMD if those milestone targets are hit. So it's just very interesting. We're seeing some of these deals where it's, hey, I'm going to be your customer, I'm going to be your investor, and it's just super interesting the size of these deals. And this was a big move for AMD. Their shares were up 40% on Monday, and Nvidia was down on Monday on this news because we haven't really seen any meaningful deals like this for competitors for Nvidia. So this is good for the whole ecosystem, and this also shows that there's just such a huge demand. We need more chips until these models or until these AI projects consume less GPU power. There's just no one can get enough. So they can't just get enough from Nvidia. They have to go to other companies. So good for AMD. And Nvidia was down on that news on Monday, but Nvidia hit all-time highs today on the news that the U.S. approves Nvidia chip exports to the UAE. So this is approval that allows 500,000 advanced AI chips per year to go to the UAE. So we've talked about this before. One of the bull cases for Nvidia is not just these hyperscalers in the US like Amazon, Meta, Google, Microsoft, not just those companies buying chips and building data centers, but eventually you're going to see these sovereign nations that have even deeper pockets than these phenomenal tech companies. They're going to be building out their own data centers as well, and they're going to have their own strategic AI plays, and we're really starting to see that happen. The bottleneck there was regulation, and now we're seeing our allies are going to be able to get some of these chips. Maybe not China or some other places, but the ones that we're friendly with, we'll be able to sell them some chips. So Nvidia all-time high, looking pretty solid there. The other news today was the US and Argentina did a $20 billion currency swap. So I'm still going to look into this. This happened kind of later in the afternoon, so I'll have some more homework to do. But there's been a lot of volatility in Argentina's bond market and their stock market. So this is a way to help stabilize things. And this could be potentially why gold is making such a move. Maybe there is some turmoil moving around in some of these weaker currencies, weaker countries. So we'll have more, I'm sure, to talk about this down the road. But market sentiment and tailwinds, it continues to be just the AI chip sector are the primary drivers for optimism right now. But we do hear a lot of pessimism too, which I think is great. It's healthy. You hear a lot of bubble talk. You hear a lot of 1999 talk, which is good. I get concerned when everyone is just all in and, hey, market's going to rip forever. We need to have that. We need people checking the market and saying, hey, is this sustainable? Hey, I think it's overvalued. That's what makes a market. So let's go ahead and take a look at some charts. Not a whole lot of economic news because the government's still shut down. So we're going to look at a lot of charts today. But let's start off with the heat map. So this week, pretty mixed here. Some of the big losers, Tesla down 7%. Tesla did announce they have some new lower cost vehicles. They're not new vehicles. They just did some tweaks to the Model Y and the Model 3 to make cheaper models. So took out some of the features to provide a lower cost model. And this is their way of trying to stimulate demand once the EV tax credit went away. So I believe the Model Y, the cheapest one they have now, is under $40,000, and then the Model 3, I believe, is around 35, something like that. I'll have to double check. So I think that was kind of underwhelming. People were hoping to get a brand new model in general, but they just kind of tweaked the existing models, kind of nerfed them a little bit, and took out some of the nicer features to make them less expensive. Some of the healthcare names, Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson doing well this week. Utilities look green. Amazon and Costco looking good this week. Tech names pretty mixed here. You've got Netflix bouncing back. Oracle had a volatile week this week. and everywhere else pretty much flat here. Besides AMD up here, up 38%. For the ETFs, very flat week this week. Gold did blast through an all-time high. I feel like the first 3 days this week, gold just went up a percent, half a percent. Today it did pull back a little bit, but still up 2% on the week. And crypto market's been pretty volatile. I believe it is still up on the week, but you can see the rest, all the small coins here, pretty mixed with more red than green. And you've got Bitcoin slightly up this week and Ethereum slightly up this week. So individual names, take a look at gold. Again, you can see it hit over $4,000 and pulling back under $4,000, but just what a crazy move here for gold over the last handful of months. Let's take a look at the indices. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ 100. Looks like we peaked all-time highs earlier this week. Let's go zoom in here. Come on, computer. But again, we had a little bit of a sell-off the last handful of days, but any sell-off we get, looks like this one's getting bought up. There's just no follow-through to the downside. Any pullbacks we get, buyers just keep stepping in, and we have this stair step higher. So we'll see where we end the week. S&P 500 looking pretty similar here. Had a dip the last day and a half, but some buyers did step in this afternoon, and we will see where we finish the week. Anything else indice wise? I did want to take a look at volatility because we were percolating a little bit, but a big sell-off this afternoon. But not a whole lot to talk about here. We're just not on our lows. We're not in this downtrend. We're starting to have a small uptrend, so we'll see if there's any follow-through with volatility. Oil, not doing anything interesting, just hanging out around $60. And bonds, not doing a whole lot, nothing to talk about there. So let's go ahead and look at crypto real quick. So Bitcoin, we did hit an all-time high. When was this? Monday, we hit an all-time high. We're pulling back from that all-time high. And we've just been having 1%, 2% day swings on Bitcoin. We'll go up a percent, down a percent, up a percent, down a percent. For me, I'm not doing anything with Bitcoin. If we do get back into this 115 range, I'll probably add to my long-term spot Bitcoin holdings. I did buy some IBIT when we had the dip down here. And I did buy some Ethereum ETF down here, but not doing a whole lot for the cryptos themselves. Crypto stocks are a different story. Maybe we'll talk about one or two if we have time. Ethereum is pretty interesting here. We did peak all-time high back in August, and we've had a nice sell-off. We've had a nice recovery, pull back. What I'm looking for Ethereum, it's got to hold the $4,000 level. If we fail that, I'm going to be pretty negative on the crypto market in general. Again, there's Bitcoin and then there's crypto. Bitcoin, long duration, holding that like gold forever. Everything else in the crypto space, highly speculative, and I'd rather trade some of the stocks around if I'm going to be involved in the crypto world. So Ethereum, I'm hoping we rise back up to 4,500, maybe get a pullback, and then we can start to make our move back over 4,700. And then the next target is going to be that $6,000 level. So you can see here for Ethereum, we finally broke this $4,000 high. We've consolidated above, we've wicked down, we've popped back up. We do not want to see it drop below this $4,000 level. We want to see it reclaim 4,700 and then start pushing its way towards 6,000. But again, crypto speculative, not financial advice. Do your own research, and this should be a small percentage of your overall portfolio. Let's take a look. Some individual names. Amazon. So Amazon had a nice week this week. We will see if there's some follow through here. But this chart looks pretty constructive here. It's been very boring, very weak last couple of months for Amazon. But I am looking for Amazon to close the end of the year at an all-time high above 240, 250 range. I don't think we get a Santa Claus rally, year-end rally without Amazon. Nvidia, all-time high today. A little bit of selling in the afternoon, but we did have a nice gap up this morning, and not much else to say about this name other than I want to be involved for the next 5 years. After that, we'll see how the AI build continues to roll out. If there is a bubble, if these models become more efficient and we don't need as many chips, but I think there's just going to continue to be other ways to use these GPUs. We'll find new ways to use AI, and that's going to need computing power. So still looking to hit this $5 trillion market cap at around 205. When we get there, I'm not sure. Once we hit 205, we'll see how long we get until 10 trillion. All right, Tesla here, consolidating, not doing a whole lot. Again, you can see the spike. This was the product announcement that they had during the week. We spiked up and then we sold off, and we're just kind of consolidating around. Or I'm sorry, this I believe was the announcement on Thursday. I'm not sure. I'm getting lost here in the sauce. I think this was the delivery numbers. This was the sell-off from the product announcement of the cheaper vehicles. But for Tesla, want to hold above 400 bucks. If we can hold above that, I'm looking for 500 plus. If we fail this $400 level, wouldn't surprise me to get back down into the 340s, somewhere like that. So this honestly kind of feels like Ethereum, where it's that same kind of deal where we kind of busted out here of consolidation. We need to hold this level here. If we fail, it'll be probably a painful process to get back above that $400 level. We'll have to wait and see. Coinbase looking good here. Not too much to say about Coin. Google's interesting here. We're finally getting a little bit of a breather in the name, and we will see if we fail this 240 level where we've been a few times here. 1, 2, 3. This is the fourth time. Wouldn't surprise me we pull back down to 220. But if we don't, it wouldn't surprise me if we push back up to new all-time highs. Uber was a name I did add to today. Not sure the news. I know there's some regulation settlements that are going on, but to me this is another stock I want to be involved during the whole robo-taxi rollout that we have. Let's take a look. What else? We've got Palantir had an interesting week last week. I believe we talked about it. Wick down into this 172, and we've been bumping our head against this 190 level. This was the previous all-time high. We had a huge sell-off. We recovered to it, bounced our head once, twice. This is our third time. So it wouldn't surprise me if we keep consolidating here before we pick a direction. Do we come down lower, or do we push up to a new all-time high? So I did buy some Palantir last Friday on this little dip. Finally back in that name after a couple of years. Oracle. So Oracle had the big pop on earnings a month or so ago, and I drew this box out. I like Oracle. I like where they're going, but I didn't want to buy on the earnings pop. I wanted to wait for a retracement. So I've been buying in these levels here, and if we can get back down, I have an order at 269 that did not get filled earlier this week. There was a report coming out that Oracle numbers may not be as good as once projected, so we'll see when the earnings come out. But makes sense for this name to cool off a little bit, and we'll see where we go from here. Do we pull back deeper? Do we resume moving back up? Costco, this is another one, frustrating. I had some orders here at $8.99. We got really close to buying. Those orders being filled, they didn't quite pull back down. We'll see if we can get there. But really, Costco has just been consolidating between $1,000 and $900 here for the last year or so. So I'm expecting Costco to eventually break out of this range and make its next move up. We'll see when that'll be. We'll see if it pulls back before it makes that move. Meta, this was a new addition into the portfolio last week. It looked very weak towards the end of the week last week, but we're getting some buyers stepping in here. This name is, to me, similar to Amazon. I don't think we get a year-end rally without Amazon and Meta being at all-time highs. The other Mag 7 stocks are near all-time highs, so Meta is about 8% away, and looks like we had the buyers step in here. So we'll see if we have some continuation to the upside over 750. Apple consolidating near all-time high. Not a whole lot to talk about here, but holding up very well. No news on Apple. iPhones, I think, are doing fine. The rollout of the new iPhones doing good. Palo Alto and CrowdStrike, these were some additions to the portfolio the last couple of months. Palo Alto, we started buying on this crash here, and we kept nibbling on the way up. So very nice recovery on Palo Alto. This is a cybersecurity name along with CrowdStrike. I think this is a space you want to be involved in for the long term. So not a whole lot to say here other than all-time high for Palo Alto, and it fully recovered. I think this was like a 25% drop that it had. So good to see the recovery there. That's a Pelosi stock, by the way, so you know it's a real winner. CrowdStrike, same thing, had a big sell-off here. I was hoping to buy some more down here. We didn't quite get there earlier this week. Probably should have pulled the trigger. That was a good spot to potentially add. But we are almost at all-time highs again on CrowdStrike. And again, they had their huge drop. I don't know if I think this was the big outage drop that they had, or maybe it was this one. But these cybersecurity names, if there's a outage or something, they get whacked, and that is potentially an opportunity depending on the story. All right, Hood, all-time highs, don't need to talk about it. Chipotle, don't need to talk about it. AMD, let's talk about it. So frustrating. I was scoping out AMD in this consolidation pattern here. I did have a small trade on AMD that I put on last Friday, so that worked out well, but could have been much, much more. So wish I got in for an investment on AMD. Obviously, hindsight's 2020, but this is a great company. But I am staying clear from this pop. I don't like to buy things when they pop 40%. Let's see here. Another name I've been scoping out here is Dell. Unfortunately, just ripping to the upside. So similar to Nvidia, or I'm sorry, AMD and Oracle. Just need to wait for it to cool off. But this is a great stock. They announced that their earnings are going to be, or their profit is going to be higher than projected. That's why we saw this big gap up earlier this week. But this is a $100 billion company, and they are making $30 billion a quarter. So they provide a lot of ancillary products for the data center. So every Nvidia GPU cluster that's out there, Dell, along with SMCI and some of these other cooling names, they are involved. So a name like VRT, they provide the cooling equipment for the data centers, and you can see why they're at all-time highs. If if data center build continues to be strong, these companies are going to continue to be strong. Microsoft, not doing a whole lot. Netflix, as we said, it had the cancel culture sell-off last week. We regained all of that, so we'll see where we go from here on Netflix. Let's see, any other names to talk about? I don't think so. So we went through a lot of names. I hope this helps. In the next few weeks, I will do a portfolio reveal because there's been quite a few different additions and things moving around in the portfolio. Again, none of that is financial advice, just to let you know the things that I'm holding and what I'm looking to do. But it was good to go through a bunch of charts here when we don't have a lot of news with the government shutdown, and we will see how Friday wraps up. That is all I got for you guys. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all next week. All right, peace out.